Hi, I'm Mike Litton. The testimonial you're about to hear is from Michael Huffman, who's a client of ours for the last 5 years. He and his wife Elaine and I met about 5 years ago when they called on a sign out in front of one of my listings. We sold their starter home for them and also represented them in the purchase of their dream home, which a couple months ago they called me and said it was time to sell their dream home. That's 5 years later. And we listed their house for sale and sold it in just a few days for $40,000 above list price. So here's Michael Huffman. If it's okay, just talking a little bit about us working together. We've worked together now for 5 years, right? I originally
Yeah.
met you and Elaine and the girls back when you were in your old house, that we listed and sold for you, and then we helped you buy the place on Butterfield. And you called me a few months ago, and it was time to move, and so we listed your house for sale and got it sold. We sold it for $40,000 above list price. Tell me a little bit, what were your impressions of working with us?
From the get go, uh, Elaine and I were reminiscing on how we first stumbled upon each other. And I think it was, we were daydreaming pretty much. We were
Yeah,
looking at some homes that really weren't in our price range or anything like that. And we stumbled upon a house that we liked and it had your name attached to it. And that's when we began our conversations. And so it was really, I think, a year or two later that we realized um, we wanted to work with someone that worked with beautiful homes
yeah,
and and had a track record of success in selling those homes, but also in finding families those homes. So uh, the initial impression was we felt like you were a little out of our reach. Like we would work our way up to a quality real estate agent like you, and we do the
oh,
first few on our own kind of thing. And so we were privileged that you kind of said yes to us
yeah,
when we made the decision to sell our little townhome and look for something that could welcome the girls at that time, which initially we didn't have. So
yeah,
um, we were so thrilled that you just said yes, gave us the opportunity to work with you, and then as we began to work with you, you were an extension of our family. You were always available to us, and not just always on the work related stuff. I remember phone calls I made to you where I was just stressed out of my mind,
yeah,
and like my dad always did, you talked me off the ledge
yeah.
and
I remember
told me
those
see
calls.
reason. I
Yeah,
was it was in front of the mall. I remember stepping out and thinking, I am in over my head and I'm
yeah,
going to bow out. And you were able to just cooler, you just calm me down and get me thinking straight again. And it all worked out because we
yeah,
got the house that we loved and we spent many years in growing the girls up and a lot of fun Christmases that we celebrated there. And then when it was time again, this last time working with you couldn't have been easier, couldn't have been smoother.
well, thank you, buddy. Thank you. It's been an honor to work with you guys, and this is a relationship that I think we'll have for the rest of our lives. And I couldn't love you guys more if I tried. So that really means a lot to me to have you say that. So we were standing in your, I talked to you about this the other day. We were standing in your garage, and you mentioned to me that working with me was like working with Apple Corporation. And I asked you what you meant by that. Do you remember that conversation?
I do, yeah.
Because I didn't quite understand the specifics, right? And then you end up telling me something that is one of the nicest things anybody's ever said to me in my life. I nearly hugged you. I got emotional and I was trying to kind of keep it together. You guys have my heartstrings, you know that. Um, but that just, I mean, Michael, still I'm speechless. I'm still just completely blown away by what you said. And do you mind saying it again?
Yeah, so, the context to it is, I've always known Apple, as a company, they don't pay a ton of money for advertisements.
Right.
They always use this word of mouth advertisement, and you kinda get that experience when you're there, where you're like they just treat you like family, or they take care of you. And so then what do? You turn around next time someone needs to get something, you're going to give them that recommendation. And so that type of word of mouth advertisement comes a lot further when it comes from a family member or a friend.
Yeah.
And that's why it feels like working with you is, if anybody was interested in getting house sold, getting a house bought, is they got to work with you, because the experiences that I've had with you, those phone calls that I've had with you, the conversations that we've had, and the time that you've spent with me and my family in helping build our futures up, we want that for other people. We want people to experience the care that someone put into us. And so, and that's kind of at the heart of it. Uh, I remember just feeling overwhelmed with the care that you had for us, and it's like that's what I want for everyone.
Yeah.
Everyone should be able to experience that, and especially a really vulnerable time
Yeah.
when you're buying a home, when you're selling a home. It is high stress.
It
It's
is.
stress on you as a person. It's stress on your relationship. It's stress on your family, and you need someone that recognizes that and can take a soft approach and a familial kind of level of care. And you've always done that for us.
I appreciate that, buddy. So here's the self-serving thing, okay? The selfish thing. So would you recommend that people you work with me on buying and selling a home? Buying or selling a
He-
home?
Heck yeah, they'd be foolish not to.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Absolutely.
I appreciate it.
We
I
are
know
in
a
a much, yeah.
shameless plug, but right.
No, hey, you gotta. I mean, if people don't know your worth yet, I'll sing it from the rooftops.
No,
Is not only are you just darn good at what you do, and the connections that you formed in the business over the years, that we have reaped the benefits of it.
yeah.
Um, but just that, like I just said, you take care of us like we're family, and that probably means even more
Yeah.
than the structure that you've built.
Thank you, bud. That means a lot to me. I'm getting goosebumps just talking with you about this, especially the conversations that we had where you stepped outside because you told me where you were. Like I knew exactly where you were standing, right? And it just going back to that is giving me goosebumps. So I'm glad that I had the I'm glad you guys called me that day, and I'm glad I had an opportunity to work with you and to get to know you. I love you guys, and you know that. So that was Michael Huffman, one of our favorite clients. If you are interested in buying or selling a property, or you know somebody who is, give us a call today, 760-522-1227, 760-522-1227. We'll take great care of you, just like we did the Huffmans. I hope you have an amazing day. We'll talk to you soon. Take care. Welcome to a case study on how you can sell your home for $40,000 above list price. Now, this is basically a case study on what you can do as a seller, and just some tips on some different things that can actually help to get your home sold. We're using this as a case study because this is a home that we sold a couple of months ago now, for a client of mine or family that actually I worked with 5 years ago. I actually helped them buy this house 5 years ago and sold their house in order to buy this one back then. So this is a case study basically on what you can do as a seller, what the things that you can control, basically things you can do to sell your home for higher than list price significantly. So if you take a look at this, this is actually what the house looked like when we were done preparing it for sale. My clients had actually installed the artificial turf. They had actually installed that pergola. They had taken down a privacy fence that was there, and they brought System Pavers in. If you know who System Pavers are, they're a company that actually worked on Disneyland, California Adventure, that kind of thing in Anaheim. And they are absolutely top of the line. They're one of the best companies out there. So if you ever get a chance to use System Pavers, understand that you're going to pay. They're one of the highest price, but they're also one of the highest quality. So they brought them in and had them do all this work in front of the house to continue to improve their curb appeal. Now, one of the things that we did is there's a bank over there on the right side of the house, had some weeds in it, that kind of thing. We brought a landscaper in that cleaned it up. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But that was another thing that we did to help basically trim some of the landscape and get it ready for what we call ready for prime time. So the next thing to look at is this is the back deck. His home has a pool in the back, and it has a fairly expansive deck. That deck was in disrepair. We brought a contractor in. The contractor refinished the entire deck, replaced some of the rotted members, that kind of thing. So basically made it, for lack of a better term, like new again. So that's one of the things that we did to help improve the property. The sellers did to help improve the property. The other thing is, it's hard to tell, but on the back side of this, there were a lot of weeds down below the deck, and they had grown up to where they really needed to be cleaned up and needed to be trimmed back. So we brought a landscaper in to do that, along with taking the weeds, with weeding those embankments, so that it looked a lot better and it was ready for people to see it. Next is, this is the other side of the deck, and this is the other part that was refinished. That actually didn't even have any finish on it at all, that lower part, and we actually had it completely refinished, with all being the same color. Next thing we did, this is the view walking in the front door. One of the things that I want you to notice is this house is in really good shape. They took great care of it. 5 years ago when they purchased it, was actually a remodel. So what they did was they improved on what they already had. This is an example. So the bookcases you see to the left, those actually are going with them. They're not attached at all. And they basically took everything out of there. They had a ton of books. They raised their kids here, and they had a lot of things. They had a whole bunch of books there, probably a couple of hundred books, maybe more, in those bookshelves. They took all of them out. The rule of thumb is, if you've ever heard these from me before, the rule of thumb is you want anywhere from 3 to 0 items on any flat surface. 0 obviously is acceptable, and that's what they did here. They also took the personal photos that they had that were on the mantle. They took those off as well. Also on the wall there, the gray wall, we had that. They had a whole bunch of certificates and different things that, and pictures and photos of the kids and the family and all that. There were a bunch of them. There were probably a few dozen, and we had them. They took all of those down. So they took all the personal photos down. They took all the things that they had that were basically memorabilia, that kind of thing, the books, all that. They took all that and packed it away and put it in storage. We also repainted that wall. We also repainted the wall to the right. So as you walk in, the wall to the right, and then the one on the other side. So we basically repainted 3 walls, but they basically had marks and that kind of thing, which needed to be touched up. Next thing we did was, this is one of the walls that we had repainted. And they took a bunch of different things that they had that were, decorative. They were memorabilia, that kind of thing, from the time that they had been there in the last 5 years. They took those down and packed them up, and so that we could show the house. You want people to remember the house, not the decorations that are in the house. So that was another thing that we did. Another thing was, there were spots on this wall. This is actually a 4th bedroom, but this is a 4-bedroom, 2-bath home. This is a 4th bedroom that they were using as a music den, and you can see there's an acoustic guitar on the wall. They actually went in and patched up a lot of there were spots in the ceiling. There was a spot in the ceiling. They repainted it. There were also some spots on the wall. They got those touched up too. So those were things that needed to be done in order to have the house show as well as it possibly could. You always want to put your best foot forward when you're preparing a home for sale. The last thing is, this is the view of another view of the deck. We had them clean up. So that embankment there was weeded. We had the weeds and the extra overgrown brush, if you will, that was below the deck. We had all that cleaned up with a professional landscaper, and we also had the pool cleaned. So the pool had a little bit of course, sort of a green algae color to it. We had that cleaned up, so that the property was ready for people to see it. And we ended up with multiple offers. We showed it a few times. We're on the market for 8 or 9 days. We ended up with several offers, and we ended up selling it, negotiating basically with all of those offers, and we ended up with selling the home for $40,000 above list price. Now, there was negotiation involved. There was marketing involved. We made thousands and thousands of phone calls, my team did, to promote this property. So there is a lot to this that the only way you can control it is by who you hire matters, who you work with matters. So hopefully you'll give us an opportunity to interview for the position or for the job of selling your home for you. So one of the things that you can control is who you work with. These are all things that you can control in terms of preparing your home for sale and getting it ready. If you have questions or you need anything, you can reach me at that phone number. There's also a number below. If you'd like to meet with me, there will be a Calendly link that you can go on and schedule a free consultation if you'd like. I'm looking forward to meeting with you, looking forward to working with you. If you have any questions, reach out to us. Again, I'm Mike Litton, and I hope you have an amazing day.